Hello everyone and welcome to episode 6 of ATA Declassified. Assassin's Creed Odyssey has been announced at E3 2018 and we have taken our time to collect our thoughts and share our first opinions about its main elements. We're going to talk about the new gameplay features, the choices concerning the main character and the dialogues in the game, and of course the lore justifications that may come with them. All that and more on ATA Declassified.
Greetings, Assassins! Wayne here, and welcome back to another episode of ATA Declassified. I am one of your hosts, Wayne Davies, 89, and I am joined once again by the lovely Marco. How are you doing, sir?
Hello, everyone. I'm perfectly fine, and I'm super happy that we can have this episode. Because after Assassin's Creed Odyssey has been announced, I've been waiting to discuss all the things with you, Wayne. So yeah.
You have no idea, Marco. I'm shedding a tear right now. Yeah. Do you know why I'm shedding a tear?
Why?
Because Assassin's Creed has finally grown up. It's an RPG.
Oh man, this podcast is going to be funny. Yeah, it's
Assassin's Creed has finally grown up. It's taken a deep leap of faith swan dive into the RPG realm after dipping its toe into the paddling pool in Assassin's Creed Origins. And yeah, we've got a lot to discuss. We probably won't get through every finite little bit of detail that's been revealed about Odyssey over E3. But we're going to talk about, obviously, some impressions of the reveal, some fun additional stuff, and obviously a couple of elephants in the room in regards to the community's reaction to certain things within the game. Yeah. Excuse me. First off, we need to do a bit of housekeeping because in case you are not aware, if you're listening to this, Marco here had the opportunity to go play the game. Is that correct, sir?
Yeah, I'm super happy and humbled that to say that I was invited by Ubisoft to the Quebec City studio at the end of April to try the game, and especially I along with other members of the community got the chance to try for 4 hours an early build of what would have been the E3 demo for Odyssey. So I can share some first impressions in here, and it would be super fun. But there's still some stuff that I cannot talk about because of an NDA that I got to sign. But yeah, I think we can cover a lot of stuff anyway.
Yeah, so we just want to complete and total clarification that obviously that Marco was the one that got to go and play. So I didn't have the pleasure and the luxury. So if any Ubisoft devs should be listening to this and I end up dipping my toe into possible facts or things about the game which Marco would have been privy to, just full disclosure, they are my personal opinions. No information has been shared. We stick by those rules. As I myself have been under a couple of NDAs by Ubisoft in the past. So yeah, like fair is fair, and personal opinions are my own, and that does not reflect Marco's integrity or the integrity of Access the Animus.
Don't make it this formal. Oh my God.
No, we have to because seriously, some of these sometimes these NDAs are goddamn serious.
Yeah. It is indeed
disclosure. I have literally no effing idea. So yeah, we're gonna get into this, and Marco, I want you to tell me what you can about the game, because obviously what we've seen in the demo is really good, and we're gonna talk about more details within what the actual game is, the setting, the characters, and so on later on. But what I want to know is, how does it play? I mean, at the end of the day, is it a reskin of Unity with some changes?
You mean Origins?
Changes? I mean, yeah, Origins. Sorry, not Unity. Syndicate was a reskin of Unity. Did I say that out loud? Okay, no, but seriously, does it feel like a reskin of Origins, or does it feel like its own beast?
I would say it does not. I wouldn't use the term reskin because it's maybe too much, but it does feel a lot like Origins. Like the gameplay, especially, like there are a lot of fresh elements to the game, like both in terms of direct gameplay, like the skills that we might get to talk about later, and how you can use them while fighting. And there are new mechanics and stuff like the conquest battles, or like the naval stuff that was almost absent from Origins. There were a couple of missions, but there was that. But at its core, it still feels like Origins. It doesn't look like Origins because like the environments are completely different. It like some areas look similar to the Cyrene area of Origins, but it's like there's going to be so many biomes and environments in Odyssey that will look completely different from Origins. But in terms of gameplay, it does feel similar to Origins. Yeah.
So with the major advancement in things like the naval combat, which is making a return, but as I believe as an actual gameplay mechanic, is it like I'm not too sure whether or not that was actually discussed in the reveal or anything, was it?
Yes, there's like in the trailer is shown in both trailers. We can see Alexios or Cassandra, our main characters, leading their ship, which is called the Adrestia, which is like it's based on one of the Greek deities and means she who cannot be caught or something like that. So the name also has a meaning for your ship, and yeah, like. Naval gameplay is something new compared to Origins, and there's a lot of other stuff that are new, like the mercenary system, for example, or even the way in which there's a notoriety system now, which is very different from Origins. So there are a lot of new elements, that's for sure. But you still feel like it's similar to Origins. There are even like in the gameplay, there's no shield anymore. Like we're going to probably discuss that later as well. But even if you don't have the shield and you have to like dodge and perfect parry, it's still like the same, a similar hitbox system, so it still feels similar to Origins.
Right. So rather than saying it was a reskin, which I called it earlier, really it feels more like in line of, well, it's a successor in terms of its style and gameplay, where. As well as in the sense that Origins, even though it was a good game and we enjoyed it, there was still some technical issues, like hit detection was one that I noticed frequently when playing the game, and obviously because of the combat system in particular, that this new style of combat system was different than previous. Yeah. I assume now, well, I can only assume that Origins, as well as being a soft reboot of the franchise, a lot of those systems were still cooking in the oven. So naval combat, they were testing that out a little bit in Origins, with those small sequences, as well as trying this new kind of combat system, still cooking, still baking it. So now as we go into Odyssey, everything should be more fleshed out and more smoother. Oh, yeah. Would you feel that would be the case?
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, like the fight system, for example, it's been it feels similar because it's still a hitbox system, like I said before. But now that you can the skills that are part of the skill trees. Now they can be mapped to a skill wheel, and so you can use them directly in combat. And so there are all these active skills that you can use while fighting, and that makes for some very intense fights, especially with the bosses in the game. So say you can remove the shield from your opponents, or you can Sparta kick them, or You can replenish a bit of your health bar, or like you can use your spear to do a lot of cool stuff, and that adds a new dimension of strategy to the fight, to the combat system. So in that, I would say that it changes your perspective while you're playing. It feels similar, but your perspective will be completely different.
So with that skill wheel, does that mean, say you have, for example, you have 8 active abilities / skills, but you only have 4 slots, so you could, again, tailor into a more RPG style, you could mix and match those skills, kind of like as an example, what you can do with active versus passive abilities in God of War there.
Yeah, it's. I haven't played God of War, and that's a sin that I am carrying.
Oh, boo!
Not the recent
one. Get
one.
the torches. He's going on the fire.
But yeah, the idea is that you either have you both have passive skills and active ones that you can map to your skill. To your skill wheel, but you're going to have a lot of them. So there's going to be, I think, 9 base skills, like very basic, like leap of faith, or like use your eagle, which is going to be called Icarus, aptly named, by the way.
For God's sake! Oh. Right, as you can probably tell, judging by my reaction and me asking these questions, I've deliberately tried to avoid a lot of information. To get these legit reactions, and Icarus, oh, for God's sake.
Obviously. And but apart from these base skills, you have the classic, like a lot of active skills. I think there's going to be at least 30 or 35. And you have to, you can choose only 4 for the skill wheel that you're going to have at the beginning of the game, and then you might have a bow wheel. So this time, instead of having to go back to your inventory to choose the bow that you want to use, the different kind of bows are going to be skills again. So you can activate every kind of bow just by tapping 1 or 2 buttons without going back to the menu and breaking the immersion. And so, yeah, you're going to have to choose the skills that you want to use for the kind of activity that you're going to do. Like, if you want to fight a boss, then you might use stuff that replenish your health and like keeps the boss at bay, like the Spartan kick. If you want to, like, I don't know, you have to do like climbing stuff, or you have multiple enemies like the ones in the conquest battles, you might need to use the skill that removes the shield from your opponents, so to make them weaker. So it really adds, like I said, a new dimension of strategy, because like for every situation you can choose the specific set of skills that you think might be better. So
to tie into that, then would the armor sets and like the armor and the customization of the character play into that as well? I'm not too sure whether or not that was discussed.
Yes. In the article that I wrote for the release of for the announcement of the game, I mentioned that not only there's going to be there's going to be a customization system for your armor. Which is going to be halfway between Unity and Origins, in that you will have, I think it's going to be 5 pieces of your equipment that can be fully customizable, that can be fully customized, in that like you have the helmet, which can also be a hood. And then you have the breastplates, the vambrace, the belt, and the boots or something like that. And you can find a lot of them in the world. So in the treasure chests, or by looting the enemies, basically like you did in Origins. But this time you can choose the one, for every slot you can choose the element that you want. So you can have a helmet, like a Spartan helmet, and an Athenian breastplate, and I don't know, the belt that you like the most, and so there is this customization element that was similar to Unity, and especially all of these elements will have stats. So in that regard, it's similar to Unity as well. But you cannot change the color as you did with Unity. So it's similar to Unity, but not yet like that.
Right, yeah.
But it's super cool. Like, it's something that the fans have been asking, and we have been asking in our podcast for years.
Oh, I know. I like heavens above. There is a God. Like that they've brought back the Unity character building system, or like build. Essentially, it's builds. Which if you play MMOs, if you play RPGs, if you play Destiny, World of Warcraft, whatever, you'll have a deeper understanding of builds, which is you build a character based on their armor sets and their abilities, both passive and active, and they're tailored for specific roles. So in theory, when Odyssey comes out, like you could tailor your build to be a tank. You can tailor your build around speed. Like if you you'll have less health, but you're a lot more faster. You can build your character around range, so you have heavy hitting bows, and if it uses a wheel, very much like I feel that's similar to Horizon Zero Dawn with the bow wheel.
Kind of, yes. Yeah, similar. Like your wheel will have like the Predator bow and the Warrior bow, similar to Origins, but you can choose it at any time. And so it's like, again, it's a mix between Horizon and Origins again. And this time you will be able to craft your arrows similar to Horizon. And I think, because it's like when I tried the demo, the E3 demo, I haven't seen anyone going into that menu, but there is a crafting option, and in the crafting option inside the menu there were several slots, so there might be different kinds of arrows. I would expect at least a fire arrow to appear. Like, you can craft fire arrows. I'm not sure yet because it wasn't in the demo. But you can craft your arrows not while playing unless they changed it. So you have to go back to the menu to do that.
Well, I have a feeling that they might have crafting arrows simply because, like, in my experience with Origins, when you have like the different bows and the different weapons, like the exotic, epic, elite weapons, whatever tier 5 top tier weapon name you want to call it, when you have those passive abilities, so the arrow is on fire, the arrow is poisoned, or the shield is poisoned, the sword is on fire, these sort of things, like these perks and abilities with those particular weapons were cool, but it was frustrating. What was frustrating is the inability to effectively move from one weapon to the other smoothly. I mean, like, if I wanted but a fire bow built for range, and then a fire bow built for speed and quick fire, but at the same time I wanted a poison bow, or that sort of thing. It was a nightmare to switch between them. So if they're able to refine it to, you have a set of bows for different things, but then your arrows are the perks rather than the bows themselves, I feel that would be a lot more streamlined and smooth, and it does give more player choice, and especially in combat. You can work on the fly there.
Yeah, and I think that to add to what you said, to avoid what you defined a nightmare, there's going to be this thing called engravings, and basically those are perks that you can attach to weapons or pieces of your equipment, of your armor, and basically You can obtain them by doing specific challenges, and when you obtain them, you can go to a blacksmith, so it can attach them to one of your weapons. So, and those are a variety of perks, so they can boost your assassination damage or your health, and I think they can add also like poison or fire damage to the weapons that you choose. So you can build. I expect that. I'm not 100% sure, but about adding fire or poison damage to your weapons. But I would expect that to happen, because like it would be consistent with the idea of these perks and engravings. And if that were to happen, it would be perfect to create your own build and your own weapons, even if the weapon originally doesn't have those specific perks.
Yeah, it's kind of like Witcher 3 in that regard, or even Destiny, or even God of War, where you have a weapon, you have slots, and then you can add certain runes or masterworks and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to that. Yeah,
to add additional damage, stun, poison, etc. Like if Ubisoft really are taking the steep plunge into RPG territory, like things like runes and the ability to cater your weapons to your playstyle or the job at hand would seem logical. So yeah.
It's also consistent with the RPG direction that they've been taking with the entirety of the game, basically. So yeah.
Right, well, we kind of suddenly started talking about weapons, so let's just reel this back in, and let's just start from the very get-go. Let's talk about the setting, ancient Greece. Now, after ancient Egypt with Origins, we kind of had the idea, or the majority of fans had the idea, is like, right, the next logical place is either Rome or Greece. You know, both of these settings are teased throughout Origins. You've got Caesar, and you've got the architecture and so on and so forth, and all these two areas were teased. So what do you think about the Greece setting? I mean, like, should we have gone there, or should they do something more interesting and go elsewhere? Do you think Greece is a logical step from Origins, I should say?
Like in terms of the setting itself, personally, I've always hoped for ancient Greece as a setting, because I seem to repeat myself when I said I visited Egypt, so I liked it as a setting. I also visited Greece when I was younger, so I was hoping to see all of that in Assassin's Creed. I'm not sure whether to say that it's a natural consequence after Origins, especially because considering the time frame, it's way before Origins. It's 400 years before Origins, so I would have not expected that, especially considering that the game is called Origins. But surprise, I guess. I mean, in that regard, Empire would have been a better name for the game, but anyway, like Greece in itself is, I think, its history and especially its mythology are perfect for Assassin's Creed, and I really hope that this time the developers and the writers are going to use the history and the mythology of the area of this setting to use it to make it consistent with the mythology of the brand. So obviously with the first civilization, but also with the idea of going into history and having fun, but at the same time following what historically happened. And to a degree, the developers have already mentioned that even if there are so many RPG elements and like the element of choice, which is going to be massive in the game, there's going to be historical battles and historical events that are going to stay the same. So that's that's an element of Assassin's Creed that is going to stay in the game. But I also hope that they're going to use the first civilization stuff in a meaningful way this time, because like it felt to me like it was like a missed opportunity not to use the Egyptian mythology to make it to have like Egyptian gods into first civilization members and having them interacting with the characters and stuff like that. So I really hope that it's going to happen this year. So
yeah.
What about you? What do you think of the setting?
Well, I'm happy with the setting, but like going off what you said, like one of the reasons why I'm really excited for the Greece setting is because of the mythology. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone who's out there, but like in terms of, to my knowledge, that there isn't really another civilization where history and mythology is so closely connected, or like so closely together. I mean, like we have the stories of Troy and the horse and all the rest of it, which was built by Odysseus. And then, but at the same time, Odysseus ties into the story, which ties into Homer's Odyssey, which is one of my favorite stories. The whole story of Homer's Odyssey is partially about Odysseus getting home from Troy, where he curses Poseidon, and Poseidon makes it is vendetta to screw Odysseus over, and he sends him all over the world, and he meets the Cyclops, and he goes to all these fantastic places. There's a witch that turns his crew into animals and all that sort of thing. So yeah, like that interconnectivity between what is history, or what would be considered history, and what would be considered mythology is so interwoven. It's kind of difficult not to go to an ancient Greece setting without dabbling with those ideas, without dabbling with the idea of Zeus and Poseidon and all these other gods and other intricate stories within Greek mythology. Pandora's box, which personally, in my opinion, I think in this universe will be a precursor box. I'm calling it now.
Oh man, don't bring precursor boxes to the table. Don't. No.
But that, like,
no, I'm just kidding.
But you know what I mean? Like
it would be perfect.
Like a precursor box being Pandora's box, like that is so obvious. That's so obvious and cool. Like
and the thing is, what you mentioned with mythology and stuff that could be used in game. Through the trailers, we already saw that there's a moment where you can see Medusa, and there's also a screenshot of Medusa, and there's also at the end of the gameplay trailer, or was it the reveal trailer,
the Minotaur.
The Minotaur. So obviously that's not historical, so hopefully it's going to, like, there's going to be first civilization stuff that is going to happen that will make these scenes happen. Even if we have seen that, like in Origins, we have seen some dream sequences as well, where the main character Bayek interacted with Egyptian gods in a way, but they weren't tied directly to the sci-fi elements of the franchise. So I think the elements are already there. We just need to see if they are integrated with the let's say with the underlying story of the brand.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I to be honest, I'm kind of gobsmacked, really. Like the potential of the mythology of the ancient Greek mythology. Cursing out Poseidon, and like even going back to even looking at other elements like. The idea of the Battle of Thermopylae and Xerxes, who was believed to be, like, if you read the books, and even if you see the depiction in 300, he's interpreted as this giant behemoth, godlike being. and all these monsters and all these great and interesting creatures just knocking about in the world. I'm just really interested to see how all that is presented within this universe, while at the same time not walking into the realm of The Witcher, where it is a high fantasy with The Witcher, which is a high fantasy franchise based off folklore and mythology, whereas Assassin's Creed, even though it does have its fantastical elements and its sci-fi elements, it's still rooted within reality as close as you could get it, without being boring.
Indeed. That's going to be very interesting to see how the developers have balanced this. Because, like, from the gameplay videos that I've seen, and, like, from what I tried already also, there are a lot of fantastical elements. And even in the gameplay, because, like, having this spear, which is, like, a first civilization artifact that you have from the beginning of the game. And, like, you get to have a lot of skills that are non-human. Like, the Spartan kick is an example, but there's... like when you remove the shield from the enemies, you throw it in the air like it's made of paper or something like that. So it gives you unearthly abilities. And so there are a lot of fantastical elements. So it's going to be interesting to see how the game will be still grounded in history. Because, like, I've seen a lot of fans complaining, or at least commenting on this, like a lot of an addition of a lot of fantastical elements to the franchise compared to past iterations of the in the franchise. What do you think? Do you think there are too many, or is it still, does it look still grounded into the canonical elements of the franchise?
Well, I'm not being funny. Assassin's Creed is a video game series which allows you to relive simulated versions of your ancestors' memories. So yeah, like there is always an element of fantasy to it, where fair enough, it's a bit more sci-fi, but we know that the pieces of Eden themselves are highly fantastical, fantasy-based weapons and tools. But in terms of like the spear itself, fair enough that there's been a bit of a compromise with the hidden blade, which we'll discuss later. But I like the idea of this spear, but simply because it is nice to actually wield a piece of Eden as a permanent weapon. I mean, throughout the entire Assassin's Creed franchise, we've had moments of where we get to wield a piece of Eden, when you get to walk around with as Ezio in Brotherhood with the apple. And even like in Assassin's Creed Unity, where the sword makes an appearance, and but you don't get to use it. You get to use it as like a skin or as like an additional weapon, but you don't actually get to use it. You don't actually get to blast it as a weapon. So I think it's really cool that this time around we actually get to utilize the technology rather than just having it as a gimmick gameplay sequence or something cool that you can see but never touch. Actually having a weapon like that is really cool, and I'm looking forward to it. And it reminded me of the arrow in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh. Well,
like I'm expecting, like when you throw it and like it goes all like you could like I'm expecting it to start flying around, and you just hear Alex or Kez start whistling, going as it whizzes around and kills everyone.
Well, it's not. There is a skill that doesn't really. You don't whistle, but you throw the spear towards an enemy, and it materializes through him. So like you kill one enemy, and then you can chain that to other enemies. So there is a skill that sort of like does that.
I mean,
so
it's
I
cool.
guess you're going to enjoy that.
It's cool, and to be honest, it's about time because, as I said, like we've always seen these tools and these weapons, and we've got to dip our toe with them every once in a while, like the apple in previous games, but never once have we got to wield it. And it's more rooted within the lore, and it's more lore acceptable that an individual would use these tools. And you get to do all this fantastical stuff rather than, say, in Origins, my best friend died, so I'm taking his sword, and for some reason, unexplained, it's always on fire. Which is also fantastical, but it's disconnected from the world. It's disconnected from the lore in the universe, whereas wielding the spear as a weapon, even though it's just as silly, it fits the lore.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
serves its purpose narratively, you know. So yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I'm adoring the spear. I can't wait to see what it does and like what little perks and abilities. But again, as I kind of teased earlier, with the spear being introduced, we've lost a dear friend.
Yeah. Oh no. Okay, let's talk about the hidden blade.
R.I.P. Hidden Blade on the screen right now. But to be honest, me personally, I don't think it's gone. If my dream is that they're doing a God of War with the Blades of Chaos. Sorry if you've not played the new God of War, which Marco hasn't, but like the Blades of Chaos are an iconic weapon of the franchise. And when the new God of War was announced, it was said, right, the Blades of Chaos are not going to be in it. We're getting rid of them. And lo and behold, they make a triumphant return in the game towards the latter end, and it's a great reveal. The developers kept it hidden perfectly, and the reveal was great, and using the weapon is awesome. And to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if this happens again, but later, like in Odyssey. I mean, how can I put this? But best case scenario, we get the spear. We get the spear at the start of the game or whenever, and then we use it. We get to use it, and narratively something happens. It gets broken, so then it gets repurposed and mounted on the wrist or something, and then you can actually use it as a hidden blade, you know, or something like that. I would like to see something like that, and. That
is something that I hypothesized in my article as well. Also because it's like at this point it's a common theory among the community. Because if you take a look at the shape of the spear and especially its tip, it is very similar to the blade itself of the hidden blade that Bayek is using. Which, by the way, was the hidden blade that was used by Darius. And it was used like 30 years before the events of Odyssey. So there might be a chance. I wouldn't rule out as well the chance of having the hidden blade or the hidden blade or the origins of the hidden blade. Darius used it 30 years before the events of Odyssey, but maybe we're going to get some information about how the hidden blade got to Cleopatra and then Aya and then Bayek. So it might be interesting to have that at the end of the game and tie Odyssey to Origins and the entire franchise. Because like the story in the past is so far from all the other events, like all the other historical events, which it would be really interesting to see if it ties somehow to Origins.
So let's hypothesize here.
Yeah.
If the hidden blade that Darius has is the same is what we're using in Odyssey, which later goes to Bayek, I mean, like. It doesn't have powers, or we assume it doesn't have powers when Darius gets hold of it. It becomes the spear of Leonidas. The
thing is, Darius uses the blade in 465 BCE, so it's already a hidden blade. So I'm not really sure how it could work, because in 431 BCE. Alexios or Cassandra are wielding the spear, so it's not a hidden blade anymore. And
well, maybe the blade itself just got repurposed into a spear.
Possibly,
maybe it's just like the blade itself is just a blade, but at the end of the day, if you take a blade and attach it to the end of a stick, you've got a spear. So
I guess.
so theoretically, Darius could have had this as a hidden blade. At some point, the mechanism gets broken, so all you've got is the blade. The blade gets repurposed into the spear, and then at some point, for whatever, it gets repurposed. Like the mechanism gets repaired, or a new mechanism gets rebuilt, and then it's put back into its original form.
That's possible.
You know,
I think we're close to how it might happen. I think we're still missing some information to have a very on point theory about this. Like I think, but still, I think that something is going to happen at the end of the game that will deal with hidden blade. It would feel strange, although it's okay. It would feel strange not to have a hidden blade in the game, although this is a first civilization artifact. So I think like fans should still be happy, even if it's not a hidden blade. It's still something that is really tied to the lore. And you get to use it since the beginning of the game, as you mentioned. So I think it's going to be still fun, and it's not necessarily betraying the identity of the franchise.
Yeah, I think
in this regard, at least.
Yeah, in terms of, like, as you say, betraying the franchise, like, this is one of those elephants in the room where, a lot of fans have been reacting to this, saying, like, oh, if there isn't a hidden blade in the game, it's not Assassin's Creed, and it's like, well, no, like, those are just tools that they're iconic tools, yes, but it's no different than having the beak on the hood. I mean, like it is just one small facet of the franchise, and within each game, each of the games focuses on different elements of the franchise and like different keystones of what makes an Assassin's Creed game an Assassin's Creed game. Admittedly, some of what defines Odyssey as an Assassin's Creed game is a little bit blurred, according to the community, which I tend to agree a little bit. But at the end of the day, Assassin's Creed to me has always been about the creed. Or the rules of the creed, and different interpretations. It's about a belief system. It's about honor. It's about loyalty. It's about protecting the innocent, regardless of what tools you use, regardless of whether your robes are white or you're wearing a leather jacket with a top hat. It doesn't matter. And yeah, a lot of the fans, I feel, have been over exaggerating in terms of the loss of the hidden blade. Like, yeah, it's a bit of an upset, but I mean, go back to Unity. We didn't have the hidden blade then, really. I mean, it was just used as an assassination tool. I mean, like it wasn't like it was wieldable as a weapon like you saw in Brotherhood and Black Flag. The hidden blade has been tooled and used to its extent when it's valuable. And when you're looking at something like an RPG game where you have an expansive tool set of different varieties of weapons and different abilities and all that sort of thing, that something like the hidden blade, is it really needed? I mean, other than just, it's a symbol, we've got to have this symbol in the game. And as you said, Marcus, I mean, at the end of the day, if the trade-off for losing a hidden blade is getting to wield a piece of Eden, I'm happy with that.
I mean, the same would be for me. Like, I wouldn't like 2 or 3 or 4 games where you don't use the hidden blade. But if it's for one game and if the trade-off is a piece of Eden that you get to use for the entirety of the game, I guess I am fine with it. And as you mentioned before, like we've always used the Pieces of Eden for like for either scripted scenes that lasted for like 10 to 15 minutes tops, or the Pieces of Eden that we used, that fans used, they were depowered, like the sword at the end of Unity. It was just a sword. And so yeah, I think that we can go along with it, at least for this year.
Yeah, try something new, which is exactly what Origins and now Odyssey are doing, which is the RPG stuff. You know, kind of segueing on, really, one key element or one popular element of RPG games, whether it be The Witcher, Fallout, Skyrim, a lot of MMOs, is character creation and multiple dialogue options, which is
one of the main elements of the announcements, like choosing the characters and the dialogue options. Let's talk about this.
What do you think of this?
In terms like, let's talk about this without thinking of the lore first. Then we're going to talk. Then we're going to tackle those elements as well. So, having the chance to choose your character, I think by itself, it's always super nice, because you get to choose the character you like, and the same applies to the dialogue options, especially. So one of the things I'd like to mention here in the podcast is that for what I've seen, the dialogue options really impact the outcome of the quests, and also how the quests are intertwined between each other. So it's something that I'm not sure you can really see in a gameplay that lasts 15 minutes or even half an hour or 1 hour. Like, you really see how quests are intertwined by playing the game for 2 hours or something like that. So I'm not sure how they are going to show this, which is going to be, in my opinion, one of the strong elements of the game, the narrative and the quests, and how you have a direct impact on the narrative of the game. And I'm not sure how they're going to showcase that throughout the campaign, because like a video can only last so much. It cannot last 2 or 3 or 4 hours, and you don't get the outcomes of your choices. Sometimes they are in the short term, but sometimes, like there was this, there's one of the quests in the E3 demo where you talk to Socrates, who is going to be one of the historical characters of the game. And you get to talk about a thief that went on the Delos Island, and the Delos Island is sacred. So he is part of the rebellion, but at the same time he went on sacred ground and stole stuff. So are you going to save him, or are you going to let the law do its course? So if you save him or not save him, like what you do there had an impact on other quests, like 2 or 3 hours after I tried that quest. So like you get to forget about the characters completely, and then that character, that thief, did something that I'm not going to spoil here because it's very important in the in the narrative of the quests of Delos and Mykonos.
Yep.
But what in like through the branches that I chose, this thief that I saved did something that was completely unexpected, and it was also justified, because he said, I am doing when he reappeared 2 or 3 hours afterwards, he said, I did this because I care about the islands, and I did this because I want to protect my family and stuff. So you get to forget about characters, and then you see them reappearing because you saved them, or they will not appear because you let them die. So And this you cannot see in a video that lasts 15 minutes. So I'm not even sure how that can be conveyed to people that are going to try the game at conventions, because you get to try the game for like 10 to 15 minutes. You don't get to see how deep the narrative system will be this time. So like it's one of the things that impacted me the most while trying the game. Again, notwithstanding the lore justification for all this, which is which is going to be something that we're going to tackle in a few moments.
Oh god,
but in itself it's a very strong element of the game, and I really hope that the same quality of the narrative that I experienced in the Mykonos and Delos Islands, which again they were quests that were not part of the main narrative. So I hope that the same narrative quality of those quests will apply to all the quests in the map, and I really hope that's going to happen. Before getting into the lore, I'd like to know what you think about the choice of the characters and the dialogue options. Well,
choice of characters. I mean, it's the next evolution from Jacob and Evie. Whether or not these characters are really the same character, but you just get to choose, or whether or not they're two unique characters within the world. I mean, like, I don't know. You might be able to pick one and then the other one will pop up later. I mean, or it could kind of be like Fallout-ish, where it's like, okay, you pick one character and that's it. You're locked in. Which, if that be the case, it does offer replayability, because you could pick one character, go through the Odyssey with Alex, and then once you're done, you can replay it again from Kaz's perspective, and you can also change the dialogue options. You could be nice with one, but a renegade with the other.
Oh yeah, about that, one of the things that that Mel McCoubrey, who is the narrative director of the game, that mentioned in a lot of interviews, is that there's like 13 kind of possible dialogue options / dialogue activities that you can do. So you can lie, for example. So and lying will not necessarily be. It could lead to positive or negative outcomes, but also being friendly could lead to negative outcomes. There's going to be a chance to romance characters, like in The Witcher, for example. And there's 13 kind of I don't even know how to call them, but type of actions that you can do in the dialogue options. And I think it's going to really diversify the kind of approach that you can have to all the characters and the quests. So I think that will add a lot to replayability.
Well, yeah, because like even now, X years later, like I still play The Witcher 3, and I'll go back to it every once in a while, and I will choose different options, and I will mess around with different options. Like, okay, if I be an a-hole here, but in this scenario, I'm going to be a good guy in this scenario, and see how that affects the story. Who knows? Maybe Odyssey might even have some multiple endings, or like different endings.
There's going to be multiple endings. That's another thing that
which does conflict with the lore. But we'll talk about that. But in just a moment. But look, at the end of the day, I mean, if you're gonna do an RPG, you might as well go all the way. And if it doesn't work, as well as I hope it will, or as well as it's been done in The Witcher or Mass Effect or whatnot, fine. You can tone it back for later installments and do a bit of a middle ground between Odyssey and Origins. But as it stands, I mean, I'm happy with some new stuff, and doing new things and having new options to talk to people. I don't have to sit there if I want to play the game over and over again, like I did with Brotherhood, which I played to death when it came out. You know, I am still involved. I'm not just sitting there waiting for the cutscene to end again. You know, I can mess about and try different things and still be invested and involved in the scenes and in the cutscenes and in the dialogue. And I like that. Again, it's just one of those things where the community, the Assassin's Creed community, much like a lot of communities within like video game communities and fans, a lot of them sometimes don't know what they want, I feel. I mean, just hear me out, because it's like people, the Assassin's Creed franchise has always struggled with its repetitive nature. You know, it's a lot of the same. That there's a lot of similarities from one game to the next, and people like kind of dipped off the franchise and said, no, it's the same thing over and over again. It's boring. There's nothing new. And then now, like with Origins and then Odyssey, this new stuff's being brought in, and Ubisoft are really experimenting with this franchise and trying to take it into a different direction and dabbling with new genres and all the rest of it. And whether or not it's good or bad is yet to be seen, but they're doing something that they are doing. Ubisoft is doing what the community has begged them to do for the past 4 games.
That's funny, but it is like to a degree it is like the Assassin's Creed community.
But now they're doing this. Now they've done these changes. A lot of these same people and a lot of these same groups, like on the forums, like within the communities on Reddit and stuff, are complaining about the changes being made, and they don't want the change. You know, it's like, well, make up your mind. You either want original Assassin's Creed or you want the franchise to try new things. Pick one. You know, I mean,
I think that the community is too diversified to have like a specific need.
You can't. At the end of the day, you can't please everyone. And to be honest, I would rather a developer, whether it be Ubisoft, CD Projekt Red, you know, Rocksteady, Rockstar, whoever. I would rather them take a gamble, try something new, and if it doesn't work, take a step back and backpedal some of the things, rather than just re-releasing the same format, the same thing over and over again with a brand new character and a bit of a brand new story, and essentially eventually becomes a reskin. Because that's what it feels like. It just feels the same. It feels like the same world. It feels like the same game, just with a different character. So, I mean, at least they're taking risks, and I admire them for that. And but that being said, Marco, there is a problem.
Risks and differences from the past. Let's talk about the lore.
Yes,
it's funny because every time we have an episode, the lore part that we're going to discuss is like the one that got people mad to a degree, or like that got people to discuss, which is super fun, and it's super nice because like it means that fans and the same goes for us, they really care about the underlying story of the franchise. So let's get into the lore part. Let's start with how can the new RPG elements, like the 2 characters choice and the dialogue options, how can they be justified in the game? Before starting the discussion, a few elements that have been mentioned by the developers. I think that it was creative director Jonathan Dumont who mentioned that Layla is going to find a damaged DNA sample, and she's going to, I think, run it through her animus, and being the sample damaged, it's going to allow the player to choose the character, and as it is for now, both the sample is it is damaged, so we don't know if it belonged to Alexius or Cassandra, at this point. And so the animus allows the user to choose the character. I think that's what's been mentioned up until now. So what do you think about this before I share my opinion?
Honestly, it's stupid.
Okay.
Right.
Why?
Look. If you're gonna, I don't even know where to begin with without sounding like. To be honest, I just called the idea of the DNA being damaged and the animus thing stupid. Like, look. Let me just put it this way. There is a better way to handle it, which is more lore-friendly and more interesting. And it harkens back to a lot of interesting ideas that the modern-day elements of Assassin's Creed 4, and Rogue and Unity were dabbling with, which is the meta. Right. I tweeted this out and I got some interesting feedback on it. And to be honest, I think a couple of people like the idea. At the end of the day, if you're going to justify a character, like the ability to play as either a male assassin or a female assassin or 2 male assassins or 3 female assassins, it doesn't matter. If you're going to have the option to either create or choose a character and then have multiple dialogue options, saying, "Oh, it's damaged DNA, so the animus is just making crap up as it goes along," it's a bit dire. It sounds like that kind of response sounds like if it has been thought through, it wasn't conveyed as clearly as it should have been, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that to be honest, one of the things I'd like to mention is I'm actually happy that the developers are mentioning first civilization stuff and modern day elements already at E3, because it's something that they haven't been doing for quite a while or never, basically. So I'm super happy that they are so open and I guess confident about these elements. And so I think that at this point we might not have the complete picture again about this, because they revealed information about this, so about the damage sample and the animus running this simulation where you can choose your main character, and also you can choose different options like in the dialogues. So one of the things that I was worried when I tried the game back in April, and that I mentioned to the developers as well, was how can this be matched to the canon? Assassin's Creed has always been a narrative-driven kind of franchise, and there are specific rules that need to be followed, and events when things happened only in a specific way, like only a specific character did that specific action. And so how can you have choices and different outcomes or different paths about the same, either about the same character, but also about different characters, because you don't know which one it was. So the thing is, as of now, the explanation for this is the damaged DNA sample. So the animus accepts the idea that it could be one of the 2 characters. And I think that the dialogue options are sort of like tied to the issue messages from Origins that talked about different simulations and different possibilities. So I guess that the animus is going to try and do something like that. So in Origins, it was mentioned that Layla's animus is special to a degree. We don't know how and why. But Leila's animus will be special, so it will allow for these alternative simulations, which are the dialogue options. And as for the main character, as of now, the only explanation is the damaged DNA sample, which members of the community have mentioned. Even if a sample is damaged, it still belongs to one specific character. And to a degree, I agree with that. Also, like, what do you think about that? Because
it feels like a bit of a retcon. Like
a retcon. Why?
I mean, like, it's like, my reaction of like, oh, it's stupid is, from what I've seen, is a very strong reaction within the community, or at least it could have been a bit more interesting, because what you're talking about is you're flexing. You are, well, not flexing. You're breaking the rules of the animus and how the genetic memories work. And that sort of thing. And it's like, oh, her animus is special. We can do it. Okay, how is it special? Clarify, substance, context. I mean, look, at the end of the day, in my opinion, it could have been this whole, picking multiple different characters and clicking multiple dialogue options could have been easily explained within the lore. Simply put, Abstergo Entertainment.
Oh yeah, that could be easily done. Like that, it could have been like a video game where you can choose your character.
Yeah, it's a product, or at the very least, Abstergo Entertainment have been dabbling with the technology to alter and change memories for user value and that sort of thing, like a mod for the Animus. Like, you could have easily tied this whole system of picking a character and having multiple options as a mod to the Animus, or an additional piece of software or something. I mean, Abstergo Entertainment, you're talking about the people that wanted to that were taking the story of Edward Kenway and Black Flag and trying to turn it into a bloody, evil, dark pirate game, Yeah. Abstergo Entertainment made the multiplayer within lore. Yeah. So that there is an ability that in my opinion, they could have easily explained this as, Abstergo Entertainment have been dabbling with multiple choice character options and all that, and outright confess it, that this is well, as real life, like Ubisoft, like Abstergo Entertainment is Abstergo. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling. I'm trying to focus my words together here. Abstergo Entertainment is a reflection of Ubisoft. Okay, like, well, we established that in Assassin's Creed 4. That Abstergo Entertainment are content creators, they're developers, they're trying to make products for people to consume, which is it's essentially it's a metaphor for Ubisoft. Ubisoft, now going into Odyssey, wanted to rekindle their products, rekindle their franchises, so they've changed the format and introduced an RPG theme, an RPG format. They could have easily, subtly, while being meta, said the exact same thing within Odyssey, saying, okay, Abstergo Entertainment, people are getting a little bit, the products are getting a little bit stale, we need to reinvigorate it, we want to try something new, here's this new format, and, there we go. And to be honest, it's more justifiable, and it's more fitting within the lore. So
to be honest, like, that would be a nice idea. And like, I was wondering about this, because like, as of now, the idea of the damaged DNA sample, which is basically the base of all of this, it might work in Odyssey, because like, the information that we know about this is still scarce. So maybe the writers are going to explain a bit more about that in the future, which might make it more consistent with the lore. But the doubt that I'm having in these days is the thing, like having the choices in the game. Like after you play the game for I don't know how many hours, because like we have played Origins for hundreds of hours. Like almost every player has played it at least for 60 to 80 hours and even beyond. So I guess that will happen with Odyssey as well. So players will get used to the choices at the heart of every moment of the game. So how will it happen in the future? Like if the base that justifies all of this is an old sample, which is so old and ancient that is a bit damaged, and so it allows for the choices. How is it going to happen if you want to portray a more recent setting where the DNA sample is not damaged anymore, and so you cannot have choices, and it will feel strange for future installments of the franchise not to have choices anymore, because after opening the freedom of the player to this level, it will feel strange to close it again to linear narratives for the future. So like your idea of having Abstergo Entertainment having a comeback to justify for the choice of the characters, even for more recent settings, would be nice. I would like that, because otherwise, for samples that are not damaged, I'm not sure how that would work. I'm not even sure how it would work for this game. So I'm not sure. Like I'm not sure. I don't expect future installments to take place always in ancient times. So I would expect at some point to go back to, I don't know, the Middle Ages or the Renaissance, or like other more recent historical times. So I'm still kind of doubtful about this specific plot element, and I really want to know how it pans out in the future. Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah, I think that the initial reaction of it all is from the community is not necessarily the reasoning on it's damaged DNA for Odyssey. It stems to, okay, so how if you're going to have multiple dialogue options, as you say, odds are this is good. This is a tool or like a gameplay format that is going to appear in the next game. How can you justify it in the next game? You know, other than it's more damaged DNA and Layla's animus is special. Okay, so what happens eventually when that animus goes and the modern day changes? Are we going to be with Layla forever? Probably not. Is the coffin, the carry case animus, the portable animus, is that going to be the permanent animus now we're stuck in? Does that mean we're not going to get to see the animus arm or use the animus arm in a future game or some other kind of iteration of animus? No. Me personally, like my negative reaction to the reasoning for the multiple characters, not just bear in mind, it is not the fact that we can have multiple characters. I love the idea of having the option to pick. I just think the reason, the lore reason is not been fully thought through, and if it has been fully thought through, it hasn't been fully conveyed to the community.
Yeah, I think it's more like the latter, because we don't have enough information yet. Like it's
based on the way they've said it. It feels like it creates more questions than answers.
Yeah,
the way they said it, exactly. It's made more questions than answers, and to be honest, when the community is discussing how this is going to affect the game after Odyssey, it's not good. because that's what people are discussing more. They're not discussing the idea of having two characters or having multiple choice dialogue options, which is the cool thing they should be discussing.
A lot of people are discussing that, to be honestly. Like, a lot of people are fans of both characters, especially Cassandra.
But like one thing that is getting in the way is this discussion of the law, genetic memory. How is this going to affect the next games? You know, that discussion is a dominant discussion, and in my opinion, it is in some circles, it is negatively shadowing the idea of having the choice to pick your own character, having the cool choice to pick multiple dialogue options. You know, so I mean, that's my opinion. I have a feeling that it will most definitely be fleshed out.
Oh,
and,
down
the line.
I hope and expect that. Like,
but putting
it's too early on it
as a first impression on how they're going to justify this within the law. Even though Ubisoft this time around, as you discussed earlier, have really gone out of their way to provide details of the modern day and the precursors and all that kind of stuff, that they've really put their best foot forward.
Yeah.
In terms of this one little pivotal detail on how to justify this new RPG character creation dialogue option style, it wasn't fully addressed as clearly as it should.
I would expect it's still early, like I mentioned. We're just out of E3. We still have like 4 months before release, and so many occasions to release more information. So I think it's like I understand why a lot of members, like hardcore members of the community, are complaining about this, and to a degree I agree with them. But it's still, I think, too early to obviously we can share our opinions, and it's super cool because the discussions that stem when they're not offensive, they're always amazing. But I think, like, if they're sharing modern day information at this point, I wouldn't expect them to be the last to be shared before a release. Because, like, usually the developers have almost never touched modern day. Like, the last time I remember they actually released assets about the modern day, it was with AC4, when there were a few screenshots of Abstergo Entertainment. And that was, like, in August or something like that. It was, like, already when the campaign was rolling. And this time, I think we've had already 2 screenshots of Layla, information, like, of course, all the information about the Broken Spear, and we have information about the background of the modern day with the sample and stuff like that.
I feel they had to do that, though.
Yeah.
Simply because, like, Assassin's Creed Origins was a soft reboot of the franchise, and with that we introduced a brand new modern day character.
Yeah.
Now, it kind of very similar to what they did with Black Flag, like when it showed the inside of Abstergo Entertainment. At that point, Desmond was dead, gone kaput, no more cease to be. So the big question on everyone's mind when it came to the modern day is, like, what are they going to do next? So Ubi obliged and went, well, here's a look at something that we're doing. That has kind of been mirrored this time round. But now that we've got Layla, and we've seen the portable animus, and we've seen, a revitalization of the modern day storyline and the modern day elements going all the way back to the days of Desmond, the big modern day question is, how is this going to continue? I mean, like, are you going to basically do what Assassin's Creed Brotherhood did to after Assassin's Creed 1 and 2? You know, like Assassin's Creed 1 and 2 in the modern day, you were very constrained with it. Like, well, not constrained. You were in an environment, a very small environment that you couldn't escape. There were puzzles, there were little things and cool little moments that you could interact with. Whereas when you look then suddenly in Brotherhood you had Monteriggioni to run around in. You could free roam in that place and mess around and collect things.
That would be amazing, honestly.
So I mean, if they mirror that and do something like that this time round, in the modern day, which would make sense because Layla quickly went through the bleeding effect with in Origins with Bayek. You know, she's gotten those abilities. She can climb. She can free run.
She also has a hidden blade.
She also has the hidden blade, so that leads to more potential.
Yeah, exactly.
She's with William. I assume when the game starts, like when we get the first look of the modern day, we would have arrived at the location where the helicopter was dropping off.
Alexandria,
or possibly they're being picked up, which again, kind of it's a lovely throwback to earlier games as well. So like when you finish Assassin's Creed 2 and then Assassin's Creed Brotherhood starts, that van drive is when you're in Assassin's Creed 2 completing all the collectibles and all the rest of it, which is very meta. I love that. So like this time around, like with Origins, but in lore timeline, in modern day timeline, Layla is still waiting for the helicopter to pick up her and William up, and we're still messing about in the Animus, getting all the details and collecting all the last little bits and doing all the side quests. So when Odyssey starts, with a bit of luck, the helicopter would have just picked us up or dropped us off at William's Assassin's base, which could lead to more cooler things, because now we could actually see the inside of the modern day assassins rather than being an off-cell splinter group like trapped in the middle of nowhere. You know, like you could actually have a headquarters, you know, that or something that
You're
on the long lines of
fantasizing so much.
I know because
I would love that, but I'm not sure we're going to have so much modern day and so much depth. But we'll see. I hope that
you played The Division, haven't you?
Yeah.
So simply put, rather than having like a major big fantasy thing, like, we're going to go, I'm not saying we're going to go into an open world modern day, but have a hub like the originals, you know, like in Brotherhood or like in Assassin's Creed 2, or even akin to the Division today. You know, you have a hub where you can just walk around, you can read things, you can have access to a database. You can have novel little Easter eggs knocking about, you know, and that sort of thing. It's more fun than just wandering around a cave finding some pieces of paper. You know, and I think that would be good.
And that was it for today's episode. Guys, thank you so much for following us for the entire episode. Over the course of all this time, we've gone through the setting of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the RPG elements, the weapons. We talked about a lot about the customization, the Spear of Leonidas, the missing elements like the hidden blade, and of course the lore and all
the heated lore discussion. To be honest, I do love discussing the lore. Even though I'm not a like, you know, a lore master like yourself, which you're a lore master. Shush, accept it. I'm gonna get it on a t-shirt for you one day. You know, I myself and Marco and many in the Assassin's Creed community just adore the lore and adore the universe that we followed for 10 years, you know, and we have a lot invested in it. You know, we've invested, you know, like 10 years of our lives into this world and this story. And when you think about it, it's mind-boggling. You know, so.
It is incredible, and that's why the discussion gets so heated. But it's also one of the cool stuff of being part of the community. So
it's beautiful.
So guys, thank you so much for following this podcast, and let us know in the comments if you agree or not with what we have said. Wayne, thank you so much again for being part of this. It's always so cool to discuss things with you.
It's an absolute pleasure, and to be honest, I seriously need to be put on the leash every once in a while. I get so into it.
All right then. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Take care, assassins. Be safe. Peace.